me an A.
A.
Now give me an B.
B.
Now give me a C.
C.
What do you get?
The Austrian gun laws part 3.
Hey lads and ladies, welcome to the Austrian gun law part 3. As you probably heard by my enthusiastic screaming, today we're gonna talk about the 3 categories of the Austrian gun law. That's category A, B and C. Now, let's start with category A. Actually, I've talked about it quite a bit in the part 2 of the Austrian gun law video series, so you may want to go look back for the details. But here's a short reminder of what you have missed or maybe don't remember anymore. Category A pretty much is everything that's fun. That's forbidden weapons and so-called material of war. So category A is, and that's the stuff you usually can't get in Austria, full auto firearms, SBR, silencers, standard sized magazines, pump gauge shotgun, explosive, flamethrowers, and the stuff alike. Now let's talk about category B firearms. Category B requires a firearms license. In Austria, that's called the Waffenbesitzkarte. So if you have the gun license, you can get pretty much a bit more fun stuff. That's, for example, semi-automatic rifles and semi-automatic pistols, cartridge revolvers. Of course, you can get semi-automatic shotguns, and here's a slight exception of everything semi-automatic is category B, and that's bolt-action shotguns and lever-action shotguns. They also count as category B. Within the category B, there's a difference between handguns and rifles. If you've seen part 1 of my video series, you already know that. If you haven't, go look at it. But here's a quick reminder. Everything that's shorter than 60 centimeters in total length is considered a handgun. Doesn't matter if it has a folding stock or not, maximum length with stock unfolded under 60 centimeter handgun. For everything that's longer with a total length of 60 centimeters is considered a rifle. So, why do you need to know that? That's because there are different magazine capacity allowances for this one. Pistol magazines are allowed with a maximum capacity of 20 rounds. So a standard Glock size magazine will be A-okay. But if your Glock magazine has like 23 rounds, that would be bad. That would make your Glock a category A weapon, which is illegal if you don't have a special category A allowance on your gun license. For rifles, the magazine capacity is 10 rounds for the category B. So if you have a semi-automatic AR-15, you can only use 10 round magazines. If you insert a 20 or 30 round magazine, it will become category A, which is bad. What about shotguns? Shotguns also have the same magazine capacity limit. Semi-auto shotguns it is. So if you're having one of those wackadoodle, extremely long IPSC shotguns with, I don't know, a 13 or 15 round tube extensions, that would make it illegal too and a category A firearm. Again, you have to have a category exception notice on your gun license to be allowed to own and use that. You are probably wondering now, why are bolt-action shotguns and lever-action shotguns in category B? Because there's like handguns and rifles, so semi-auto stuff. What does the shotgun or shotgun do though? Well, if you would have seen part 2 of my video, you would have known that, because that was a political decision thanks to Pumpkin Ronnie. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. It's worth your time. Also, speaking about shotguns. Shotguns have a different size limit. The shotgun cannot be shorter than 90 centimeters. Remember, a rifle, 60 centimeters. Shotgun, 90 centimeters. Also, for shotguns, the minimum barrel length has to be 45 centimeters in Austria for it to be legal. Now let's get to category C. This one is especially interesting for many Austrian citizens because it doesn't require a firearms license. But Even though a Category C firearm doesn't require a license, it is still registered in the Central Firearms database of the Austrian government. So there is no unregistered firearm in Austria. Even though you don't need a gun license for Category C firearms, there are some basic requirements. These basic requirements are you have to be 18 years or older and you have to wait 3 days before you can pick up the rifle if you don't have a firearm license. That means you go into the gun shop, show your ID that says you're 18 years or older, put the cash on a counter and you can pick up your Category C firearm after 3 days. That's the so-called cooldown period. The idea of the cooldown period is A, to prevent murder, and B, for a background check to see if the person who wants to buy the firearm has a gun ban on him or her. These gun bans usually occur if you have some criminal record. Make sense? Right. So about the cooldown period. Well, the basic idea is if you are raging with anger and I'm gonna kill everybody, give me your deadliest firearm, you have to wait 3 days before you get that deadliest firearm of the Category C. All jokes aside, the gun clerk can always deny service for persons that are seemingly enraged or emotionally disturbed. They can also call the police or, just don't go enraged into a gun store. It usually ends bad for either side. But what can you get if you're 18 years old in Austria and don't have a criminal record? Now, the gun law in Austria literally says Category C is every firearm that's not a Category A or B firearm. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Now what does that mean? That means, for example, bolt-action rifles that are longer than 60 centimeters and don't have magazines with more than 10 rounds. That means you can also get, pump-action rifles, not pump-action shotgun, pump-action rifles with the same requirements, so 60 centimeters or longer. But even though you can get a pump-action rifle that takes AR-15 magazines, you won't be allowed to buy 20 or 30 round AR-15 magazine for the Category C weapon, because again, even that 20 round magazine is considered a forbidden weapon by law. So a Category A item. I say item, it's actually saying it's a weapon, but I call it an item. So if you're buying like one of those AR-15 magazine taking pump action rifles, you can use your 10 round magazines, but you cannot buy 20 or 30 round magazines for it. Now here's something interesting. Revolver rifles with a total length of longer than 60 centimeters are also Category C firearms. If you're thinking, I can get the Joker's revolver, you could buy it as a Category C firearm in Austria, even though if it doesn't have a stock. 60 centimeters or longer is considered a rifle. Here's another small detail for Category C rifles, and that's the super long range calibers like the 50 BMG. 50 BMG is illegal in Austria in every category because it's considered a war material. So Category B or C, semi-auto or bolt-action 50 BMG is not allowed in Austria. You can't get that. It's a bit difficult to say what caliber you can get because there is no clear regulation in the Austrian law. There are just individual cases. For example, the 50 BMG and the 460 Steyr have been banned because they are deemed a war material. But the 416 Barrett is allowed on the other hand. So right now the 416 Barrett is probably the biggest caliber you can go in Austria if you want a long range caliber. That means a 408 JTAC, for example, is also okay. Also part of Category C are shotguns with single, double, 3, 4 barrels, whatever, as long as the trigger only makes one barrel to fire. So a single trigger bolt can only make one barrel fire. If a single trigger bolt would make 2, 3 or more barrels to fire, it would not be considered a Category C, it would be considered a Category A. So that one is not possible. But everything else that, the old drilling rifles, stuff like that, that you break open and put in your ammo, whatever, that's a Category C firearm in Austria. Now here's one of the strange things. deactivated weapon that are deactivated with the parameters the European Union described are category C firearms. Now that's super weird for me, because category C firearms regulate something that's not a firearm, because a deactivated firearm is not usable anymore. You can't reactivate it without major overhauls. And you don't know what they do to firearms to deactivate them. For example, the barrel has several holes, the bolt is cut and closed, the upper receiver has to be thinned out to 1/3 of its original depth or something like that. So it's really gruesome. You don't even want to think what they do to these poor firearms. That's also, like military rifles that are deactivated. So for example, an M16 rifle that has been deactivated is a category C firearm in Austria, even though it cannot fire. And it wouldn't be Austria if there wouldn't be an exception. And this exception is for weapons that are not category A, B or C, but are still in the gun law. These weapons are not registered in the Austrian Central Firearm Database, but you have to be 18 years or older to buy them. So what are these? That's basically the old stuff, like flintlock pistols and single-shot percussion firearms. It's also CO2 airgun rifles and pistols, as long as the caliber is smaller than 6mm. If you're thinking, no, haha, that's a loophole, I'll go with my flintlock pistols, dual wielding, arrgh! That's not gonna to happen, unfortunately, because you can buy the flintlock pistols without the gun license and without it being registered, but you cannot buy the black powder. For the black powder, you need a category B firearms license, or you need a sport shooter certificate. So you can buy the weapon, but you can't buy the ammo for it. Sucks, right? Maybe you're now wondering, CO2 rifles are in the gun law, what about airsoft and paintball markers? Well, airsoft and paintball markers are not considered firearms or weapons of any kind in Austria, and therefore are not part of the Austrian gun law. But there's a special paragraph of law about these airsoft types and paintball markers, making them airsoft and paintball markers. So they're not considered toys, but they're not considered weapons. The requirement for them are you need to be at least 18 years old to buy them, and they cannot be in a shop without any type of barrier between them. So if you're going in, supermarkets, why would you go to a supermarket to buy a paintball marker? If you go to a supermarket to buy a paintball marker, that paintball marker has to be behind glass or something similar to prevent people from entering and touching the paintball marker or airsoft gun. Well, that's Austria for you. Congratulations, guys! You made it through another Austrian gun law video. Well, that was certainly not the last one. The next one will be part 4, where I'll tell you about the difference between the gun license and the carry license. Oh, and I will also tell you why they asked me if I play with puppets when I wanted to get my gun license. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye!